broadcasting live out of a basement in Appleton, Wisconsin. You're tuned into Fox City's Core on WCZR Code Zero Radio. We're the show that gives you an opportunity to call in and be a part of the show. Our call-in line is 920-358-0795. Core. Frank Anderson is a versatile creative force, donning multiple hats. He's an animator, director, author, musician, historian, and presently Frank is a part of a new surf rock band called Zebra Mussel. He's also a member of a supergroup called the Know-It-All Boyfriends, who are set to play next month in Madison, Wisconsin for Joey's song. I'd like to welcome Frank Anderson back to Fox City's Core. How are you doing, Frank?
Wonderful.
It's good to have you.
Wonderful. I have coffee. I have an Elvis, Vegas era mug.
You've been gone for too long. It's good to have you back.
By the way, Zebra Mussel's the super group.
Well, I think the factor that makes all these super groups is Frank Anderson.
Oh, well, I'm kind of tagging along, I think.
Well, in people that have seen your prior times on the show, this is your third appearance on the show.
Yes. Take that, Reilly Crowe.
You were on with Zebra Mussel, and then you also were on. It was almost 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, it was quite a while ago.
Yeah, so you've done quite a bit since then. So as far as like where to start in this interview, I mean, we can touch over some of the stuff. I'm going to be focusing on a lot of different parts of what you have going on. But let's start off with talking about Joey's song, which is set to take place next month.
January 6th. It's going to be big, real big. Too many guest stars. It's huge. The surprise list is as spectacular as the actual guests. But, yes, January 6th, raising money for a wonderful cause. And we have the Bangles. We have a Cowsill. We have Soul Asylum. We have... Give me the list. You
want the list? All right, I'm going to give it to you. It's a long list. Gail Greenwood of Belly, Kay Hanley of Letters to Cleo.
They're dangerous. They're so good. They're dangerous.
And then you mentioned Debbie Peterson and Vicki Peterson from the Bangles.
Debbie and Vicki Peterson, yeah.
Dave Perner from Soul Asylum.
Yeah. Well, the whole hee-haw gang, all of Soul Asylum.
And we've got this year Ella Feingold, Gina Volpe from Lunatics.
Portugal the Man. Fleshed out. There'll be more of them this time.
Yeah, Laura Jane Grace is there this year, formerly of Against Me. The Nielsen Trust, and I think that Rick Nielsen is going to be there this year.
Rick Nielsen will be there.
I think last year he was supposed to be there and got sick or something came up.
Yeah. He couldn't make it. Cheap Trick's been having health problems. 250 nights a year on the road since 1974. How do you do that?
Yeah, that's a lot. Well, I was lucky enough to see you perform at this last year, and it was a great show. And it was what I really loved about it was seeing you up there performing with some of like bands that I love, like Soul Asylum, Portugal the Man. And
I didn't know who they were. I really didn't. They said Butch told me before they went on, they want you to play with them. They must have heard me at the sound check, and okay. What are we doing? I have no idea. Then it hit me later. Their hit song, right? They have one big hit. They have a big hit song, was a car commercial that everyone's familiar with. But I didn't know who they were. Pathetic, huh?
Well, if anything, it was a good introduction to you to find out about them afterwards.
But then again, I'm utterly clueless in certain areas. I still have never heard. I couldn't tell you if I heard a Bon Iver song. I don't know. I have no idea. And zero interest in that regard. I heard it was really soft music. Is it? Dreamy?
I haven't heard it either.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, anyway, that turned me off right away. So,
yeah. So this is the event that you're familiar with, obviously. Now, how did you first get involved in being in the Know-It-All Boyfriends and with this benefit?
That's a long story. That's too long. Okay.
You can give me the Cliff Notes if you want.
Well, I played the Madison guys in the Know-It-All Boyfriends. I lived in Madison a long time. And I'm kind of from Madison. And I played with all of them, and of course I played on many, 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 many recordings at Butch Vig's studio, Smart Studios, and that's my connection. So I introduced Butch to Corey. I'm going to make a long story short. Corey Chisel, and the event needed padding, needed more people, needed more ampage, more pizzazz, more guest stars, and Corey Chisel came up. So he took, in a roundabout way, he took me and Alex Drossert, keyboard master, down to a Joey song about 5 years ago, and we've been there ever since. And Corey's job is fabulous, because his job is to sing the power ballad that melts. Let's just say there wasn't a dry seat in the house when he finishes singing.
But it's really, that event's really grown. It started off in a volleyball court, I believe, with 3D.
And then it went to the Barrymore Theater in Madison, and then now it's at the Sylvie, and that's, I believe, 3,000 people. And it's a terrific venue. And we got through COVID somehow. And this year's going to be a real coming out party. Yeah,
and this year, if you can't make it down there in person, you can buy a live stream and watch it from the comfort of your home.
Yes, you can.
Which is great.
Or you can follow me, and my phone will be up and on, and you can see it from my point of view in the back, behind all the stars. Yeah.
How do you prepare for something like that? Are you given a list of songs? I think you mentioned for Portugal the Man was your learn these songs.
Well, one year we backed up Brian Ray. Brian Ray is Paul McCartney's right-hand man, right?
He also did some, I think he was Ella, or the Chess Records artist.
Yes.
I can't think of her name, though.
Well, you made me forget it.
At last.
At last, yeah. Her.
Yeah.
And, of course, one of my, I'll tell you a brief story. I woke up in an L.A. motel. I had Appleton to L.A., right, and I was doing business there. On my walls, it was Houdini decorated. So there are pictures of Houdini on the walls of my motel. I walk out the door, go down Wilshire a bit. Oh, who we're talking about at last, with special guest star Corey Chisel. So it's like I couldn't escape Appleton in that little area of L.A. But where were we?
I think we're talking about how you prepare for Joey's song.
Paul McCartney's guy. I need more coffee. It's really early for me. But what's his name again?
Brian.
Where were we? Brian Ray. Brian Ray. Paul, he'll send us his CDs, and you better Vic Ferrari his songs. You got to nail it. All his notes, all his arrangements, everything. So, you just practice along, right? And don't slouch. When Brian, we had a comedic meeting, let's just say, with Brian Ray when half the band was not quite prepared to play Brian Ray's song. But that's what happens. So it's either that or it's something we all know and we can do. I mean, we've all played so much, it just comes naturally, right? But the main thing, though, is, well, like with Soul Asylum, I know their tunes, so it's no big deal. But with someone like Brian Ray, or I should have known, with Portugal the Man, they have arrangements, and you better be on it.
And you were up there for a good portion of the night. You're sort of like the No Doubt Boyfriends are kind of the house band, and then you'll get I think Soul Asylum did, was it 3 or 4 songs last year?
Yeah, that was fabulous.
It was great to see Butch up there drumming for them.
Yeah.
And you and Alex up there because, of course, Butch worked with them on their album with Misery on it. And it was really good to see that.
There's kind of a history there, yeah.
So if people are looking for something great to do, Joey's song. It's
great. It's fun. And our host, once again, is the famous Charlie Barons, who kills every time. Yeah.
Manitowoc Minute.
Manitowoc Minute. Everybody loves the Manitowoc Minute.
So since we're talking about Joey's song, your relationship with Jay Moran, where did that start? Where did you guys meet?
We've known each other since Smart Studio days. his band, the Obros, very talented guys. They're kind of like the house band for smart studios. So each guy, has, well, actually, they're all multi-instrumentalists. They played on a lot of records, and as did I. And together, that's how I got to meet them and know them. Butch is from another era, my era, which is way before smart studios. And there's that bunch. So there's two Madison bunches. There's that bunch, and then there's Jay and the other guys. And there's also on what do you call percussion?
Pie.
James Cowan. His history is insane, and you got to have him here on this show.
I'd love that.
You got to talk to him. I mean, it really is insane. It's there's this Jamaica connection. There's this ska, reggae, rock steady, drum beat aficionado connection with those guys.
So not only is it a great event, making money to help figure out how to solve epilepsy, but you guys are kind of,
and the money goes, all of it. It goes to the cause directly. They usually, I don't want to get this wrong, but they award it to a doctor who's doing something in that field, who has a specific area of research. Yeah.
And they also have things on their website you can bid on, signed guitars and different things. So
memorabilia, real memorabilia, fake memorabilia, and real memorabilia.
Yeah, so it's a great time. Go check it out on the web. We'll post links and everything, but a good reason to get the live stream or even attend is to see Appleton's own Frank Anderson up there on the stage, and Alex.
The whole left side of the stage is Appleton. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Although Corey was on the right side. I think he defected. He left us. He went for show business stars on the far right-hand side of the stage. Yeah,
Corey came, I think last year Corey came out and he did a duet kind of, I think it was a duet with Kay from Letters. I think she's in Letters to Cleo. But anyways.
That was a great duet.
Yeah.
I forgot what it was, but it was great.
Yeah.
And then he sang the show-stopping I Want to Know What Love Is.
I forgot about that.
With a massive choir behind him. That was the highlight of the night. And no one introduced him as Corey Chisel. So at the after party, all these people were who is that guy who sang that? There's all these business guys at the after party. Who was that guy who sang that song? It brought tears to my eyes. I looked at my wife. She was crying too.
So when you started out in music, you were in the Philippines. I
was born and raised, yep.
Music was a big part of your life early on.
Huge.
You started playing in bars young.
Yeah.
I think you said your appearance the first time that you were gifted a steel guitar, and that kind of changed everything.
Everything.
So you're known for the steel guitar right now.
Yeah.
It's like your main weapon.
Yeah. But I've always, I had that country stuff, and I loved the hardcore country when I was a kid. And I got that down really quick. But also there was tons of practice. I used to play 6-7 hours a night. I used to sleep with it like this and go like that. just to get my, constant. Steel guitar playing involves a lot of rolls, forward roll, backward roll, multi-mid pick roll. There's all these things you have to know. There's hand blocking, pick blocking, bar blocking. You have to have a tremendously strong left hand, not the picking hand, but the left hand. I can always tell a beginner their left hand doesn't want to be on the steel guitar. You can tell right away. And and I got into it big, and by the time I was 17, I was bored, completely bored with the country. I still am. Much prefer taking the part of what keyboard players do in rock bands. That's my favorite thing, hands down. Riffs, ripping solos, riffs, and riffs. I love riffs. And so I was playing with a band at that time in Madison that was very popular called Buzz Gunderson. Did I mention this before?
You touched on it.
Yeah, well, we were insanely popular for about a year. That's when I met Butch Vig. And his band was not popular because they were too far ahead of the curve. We were like the curve, and they were way ahead. And I left town, moved to California, And when I came back for a visit, Butch was #1 band in Madison and getting a lot of attention and record deal offers from the likes of Arista Records. And that's no big deal today to any of your younger listeners. It doesn't mean a thing. But back then, that's all we dreamed about, you know. And we thought anyone who had a record deal had money. Little did we know that 99% of them had nothing. And when they were coming through town, a free meal was a big deal, you know. But, yeah.
Yeah, record companies, that's a good point. I think there are still deals that exist, but they're even worse than I think they were back then.
But when I look back at it, it was great. I mean, sure, you get, let's say you're a first-time signee, you get $30,000 up front maybe, or $100,000. It got crazy towards the end where, like Freddie Johnston, who's going to be at Joey Song, his upfront deal was insane. It was like $250,000. It was this big whomping pile of money dropped on the head of a 4-year-old kid. And did he think that he'd be alive and kicking and still doing it today? You know, he didn't. None of us did. Yeah. But that was such a big deal. But it means nothing now. There's nothing now. There's just nothing. Back then, you worked for the company. What did they do with all that money? They didn't screw you. All that really did go to advertising. And that's a hefty, it's like the movie business. You know, a big chunk of any budget is PR and advertising. And I learned the hard way, don't go anywhere without PR. Don't go anywhere without someone doing the lead work for you. And don't go, my greatest advice at a bar in San Francisco, there was a singer called Eddie Money, and his road manager looked at me drunkenly and said, I wouldn't walk out the front door anywhere without a hit song. You know, and that was back then. So you're going out, you're making the same amount of money then as you are now. I won't go on my usual thing about how going on the road is just stupid. I mean, it's fun if you're with a good group of friends and it's like an adventure. But nowadays you're sleeping on the floor. We didn't sleep on a floor. We slept in cheap motels. But now they're sleeping on floors or couches or, you know, that's rough business. So and you can't make your money. That's the only way you can make money. And you can't make money unless they know who you are, because you're in this pay scale, right? You're still in the $150 to $300 pay scale down here. And the next step up is really big. It's a lot bigger. And getting there is almost, what do you got? You know, you got to have a hit song. And I don't mean a hit song like Top 40. I mean, was it placed in HBO? Was it placed on a Showtime show? Do people know it? Is it a theme song? Just some kind of something to get the machine going.
Do you feel that that's where things have kind of moved in the last 20 years, is now you've got to get your songs and licensed and in shows and stuff, because really
that's all anyone's doing. They're called syncs. And that's the only word I hear at Mila Music. Got any syncs? Getting any syncs out of that? You know, from the people who are out on the road and doing all the suffering.
And to get to that point, you need to know people that can...
You need to be lucky as hell. Yep. You need... Even knowing people doesn't do it. And here's the other thing. This is huge. People... Advice. Never carefully record anything. Let it rip. Let the stones fall where they are. Kick out some outboard machinery so that it buzzes and sounds weird. Every sync, if you notice it, has a very distinct aural quality. It sounds like they all sound like they're from the Twilight Zone. I just saw Slow Horses, and Mick Jagger does the opening. Well, listen to that theme song. Listen to it. The opening is so tweaked into Weirdland, it's an immediate grabber, you know, when you're watching. It's not carefully recorded. It's not, so carefully mixed. And, you know, screw that.
Quantitized and all those other words.
Everything, yeah.
Well, let's take a step back from the music. When did you get into film? Because that's a huge part of your life.
Well, I failed at music, so I couldn't get out of the, you know, sure, I could go on the road with anyone, but that didn't pay anything. And I hate the road. I wouldn't go on there. And I didn't want to do that. And I was not a songwriter then. And I do have some syncs, but only when I wrote instrumentals. No, I just said hell with it. I'd been playing too long, since I was 15. And I was in my 20s, and I was married. And you know my wife. And
Hello, Deb.
I had to do something. So I got into what I did before the steel guitar took me away and put me on the lost highway. And it is a lost highway. I got into film. Animation was always my thing. I used to make animated films when I was a kid, and I damn near did that right away instead of music, but I did music instead. And I had a nice run, music. It just ended, Things end. And it came back. It sure as hell came back in a big way. But, I got into animation. San Francisco just happened to be where I lived, the animation hotbed of the United States, and it was hot again. It was a dead industry that had risen, and there I was. So a very good friend of mine from a band I was in called Call Me Moana in San Francisco. I'm on their first album, not the later ones. There's a difference in the sound. He asked me if I would animate a car commercial. And I boldly said, sure, not knowing I kind of knew what it entailed, but it was insane. That was the ink and paint days where you painted cells. You draw, you flip the drawings to test them, because you can't do it any other way. And then you figure out the timing of the whole thing, besides imagining it, and then you ink and paint it on cells. And it takes an hour to do one cell. And I had about 100 cells to get done, so it's 100 hours, or more than that. Anyway, we got it to the studio just in time, produced it, and that was it, and my career started. And I did really well after that. I ended up directing national commercials and doing, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Butterfinger, Skittles, Hershey, all the big ones, and Budweiser, you name it, whatever was in the 90s.
So we talk a lot about a musician hearing their song on the radio, but what is it like to see?
Every night, no matter what city I was in or here in Appleton, I went, oh, I worked on that. But what's it like? No one knows you did it. That's what it's like. So there's a gratification of just seeing it. You look up and you kind of grin, but nobody knows you did it.
Would you kind of try to solicit people's opinions on it?
Hey, I did that. No, I didn't. Because it was every night. My Butterfinger one I did with Bart Simpson, I was on every night. It was on every day. You could see it was anywhere I went. TV store, whatever. Van Vrede's. Whoa, it's on 14 screens. But they're ephemeral and they're all over the place for a little while, and then they're gone forever. YouTube brings them back. Yeah.
It seems like work you have to be really focused and dedicated,
yes.
Because the amount of time that you're mentioning goes into each frame is crazy.
Well, the stupid part, I think I burned myself out because I did it all by myself. Usually, I had studios later, support, but most of the time I did it all by myself. I remember the Sears campaign where we had to imitate that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Red News. I'm slipping in messages to your listeners. And then animation, and I did stop motion too, by the way. Stop motion and traditional animation. Traditional animation died, suddenly. Like Toy Story, boom, it's over. This ain't happening again. It's just over. It ended, so I had to figure, I had to think ahead. And go, okay, I want to be a live action director. I was deep enough in the business to be able to transition to live action director, and I did that. I directed a lot of rock videos in the MTV days.
Care to tell us some of the titles? You don't have to if you don't want to.
They ended up usually on a Sunday night show called 120 Minutes. They were all alt rock.
That was their best show.
You're damn right it was the best show. The Cosmic Psychos from Australia, you know them? They were...
I haven't heard of them.
Butch produced the Cosmic Psychos, and we did one of their videos, Dead Roo. Dead Roo, about killing kangaroos.
Do you have like a portfolio of all the
No,
stuff?
I don't. I never did. I had to have back in those days, before you could put it up on the internet, you had to have a new reel every 6 months. You had to have something new. And if you didn't, your career would start washing away. You just had to be new. You got a new look for me? What do you got? I already saw that. I don't want to see that. And so I had to do, one has to do free jobs and invent them, to create new looks, to sell that look, to be able to get a commercial that may. And these commercials paid very well back in those days. Well, they still do. National commercials do. So to keep doing free stuff in order to generate more work. So there's tons of that. But you can see the look of something I did for free on a Skittles commercial or at Turner Classic Movies intros, which I did, those real long intros to their genres, which was my favorite thing to be involved with.
Well, and you said you worked on some stuff with HBO.
Recently.
Yeah, that's
Sure,
exciting.
with my son. We did Martin Scorsese produced, and he's in everything. It's early, people. Ethan Hawke directed.
Yes.
The Last Movie Stars, 8-part HBO series. A year ago it appeared. It did really well. And, we did, my son and I did animation bits. What they needed was a long animation segment that looked like it was done in 1969. Well,
go back to some old kind of techniques to do that? Or did you use modern?
Well, no, use modern too. But I know what it looks like. And through me, my son really knows what it should, texturally, how it should look like. This is no fakey crap, because I animated in 1969 when I was a kid. And I did exactly then what is on that HBO show.
And is that something that's out right now?
You can see it. It's we're in episode 2, and where Paul Newman describes the turbulent times of the 60s and a changing world, and he's talking about it, and our animations interspersed, and it's crazy, trippy. It's 1969, right? And all those techniques I did, so the guy who hired me told Ethan Hawke, he goes, no, he really did animate in those days. He knows what he's doing, which is true. Yeah.
And that's great that you got to work on it with your son.
Oh, he's great.
So,
he's
great, growing up, seeing you do some of this stuff,
Oh, he used to come to the studios in Chicago with me. I couldn't take him to New York or Atlanta, but my wife would let me drive him down to Chicago, and spend my time there with, and it was a wonderful studio, and they put us up in the nicest hotels, even though I like things low-key. I like diners, I like motels, and no fuss. They put us up in this luxury hotel. We were looking up at Oprah's suite directly across from us, in a high-rise. It was amazing, the glass room like that. You can tell we're from Wisconsin because we just sit there staring out the window like that. But it was, he helped me. He grew up in the business. He has his own style, which is really unique. And he's done a great deal of those backgrounds for bands like the 1975, I can't even name them all. Billy Joel's last tour, he did the...
I saw that. That looked great.
That looked fantastic. And he's ahead of the curve. I'm way behind.
You did some of that at some point, didn't you? With the backgrounds for a concert? I thought that you worked on...
I don't know. I've done a lot of things. I don't know. I think.
You've done everything, so we'll just...
Well, I used to do over 100 a year.
So it's like
little projects.
Like you said, one thing onto the other and get it done and move on to the
the
next.
And people come up to me sometimes, hey, Frank, remember that project we did for... No, I don't. You finish it, you move on. That's it. It's kind of like a life lesson. You finish it, you move on.
And you also you co-directed the Life of Reilly, which
with my longtime friend and guy I've done business with forever, Barry Polterman, and he edited. Our company produced and co-produced and edited American Movie, the famous American Movie. I think some of your listeners might know.
It's a great movie.
Yes. Well, our group shepherded that along to its fruition and its big damn deal opening at Sundance, and it's become its own cottage thing ever since then.
We had a question from Tunnel of the South 1768, who is in Australia there, but he enjoyed the last time you were on talking about the Life of Reilly. And he wanted me to ask if you had access. Well, first of all, he wondered if you could share some more about Charles, some more of your insight from spending time with him. Mm-hmm. And he also wanted to know if you had access to the episode of Johnny Carson where Charles recited the passage from Hamlet.
I saw it. It exists. Actually, that episode is like the holy grail for Life of Reilly lovers everywhere. By the way, its 20th anniversary is coming up, and we are re-releasing it. We pulled it, but we are re-releasing the Life of Reilly in all its glory, and there's a lot of glory. It was the second highest reviewed film of the year. It just hit a wall because Charles died and he could not go on the road. See, once again, PR. Who's your front man? Who's doing all the PR? Well, ours died. And you could tell he was sick during the production and he was starting to fade, but boy, did he put everything he had into that final moment, those 3 nights on stage that we spent with him. And he was so sweet to everyone, and he was hilariously neurotic. He was wonderfully, I can't do the show tonight! I can't do it! Okay, Charles, let's make you a Manhattan, and we'll, it was, I'm flooded with the torrent of memories. You have to get specific, otherwise I'm all over the damn place.
And you said you shared the last moment he was ever on stage, walking off stage, because you were standing right next to him. I was
standing right there with the camera, and he leaned, he said, thank you for being here, and thank you for smiling. I smiled the whole time, I think I was smiling because we had brand new HD cameras that they used on Star Wars, and my shoulder was in horrid pain. The thing was just... It was like having a steel guitar on my shoulder, 80 pounds, and for the whole show.
It's like having a small kid on your shoulder for the whole time. and somebody, I like that the camera jiggles and moves. I said, that's me trying to keep it steady. It's so damn heavy and it's got a long lens, and the longer the lens, the more you see movement. So over those 3 days that you were filming, was there pressure, like if you missed a shot? Because it's not
Well, Barry Polterman edited it. That took a year. I mean, it really was, well, not a year, but it took a lot of time. And he somehow stitched together. One night, Charles flubbed the show. And, he couldn't, it went in a lot of directions. and he put together all this footage and somehow made it feel like it was one smooth night. But it's not really as a film of, most people haven't seen it. We had great numbers on Netflix when it came out. We had a lot of viewers.
So it was originally on Netflix.
Yes. No, this was not some fly-by-night stitch your pants movie. It was a real movie. And it is a real movie because there's huge sections in it that we had to produce later. And my favorite part of the movie is when Charles is talking about growing up did I do this story before? He's talking about his first school play, right? And we show black and white footage of his first school play. But I shot that here in Appleton with kids, and we made a whole production. And my daughter is in it, and they dressed in their period clothes. They look like 19th. People to this day say, "Where did you get that footage? How did Charles get you that footage? Was it from his mom?" And of course not. They were poor. Nobody had cameras in the 1930s or 16 millimeter cameras, and you had to be very wealthy to have one at that time. And just recreated it, and in doing so, created a job for myself that went right up to the Paul Newman thing, which is recreator of historical footage.
That's
accurate recreator of historical footage. So much so that the lawyers can't tell.
That is crazy. Yeah. So, I mean, when you're
lawyers, yeah.
When you're recreating something that, obviously, we talked about the thing you did recently for HBO, but you've got so much experience with also being a fan of old film.
Oh, unbelievable fan.
So when you were,
this is my whole life.
When you were a fan watching those films, was it going through your head back then? Like, I wonder how they filmed this. I wonder what their technique was.
Sure. And my uncle was a director. He was much, much older than me. I was young when our paths crossed, and we never worked together, or I wasn't even old enough to work in the business when his career was going. So, but I was in Wisconsin, and he was in L.A. But he worked for Desilu, and his name was Alan S. Lee, and his real name was Adolf Sievert Lee, and that's Norwegian. He had to change it in World War II. But he directed one film. It's called The Desert Raven, which we had a showing of quite recently, and it was wonderful. And that was a national release in the drive-ins and movie theaters in 1965. But he worked in commercials. He worked out of Chicago. He worked in Hollywood. He had a wonderful career. But I remember visiting him in Hollywood, and those were big deals, big damn deals. I got to meet some of the Beverly Hillbillies and things like that. That's long ago.
I'm a little slow on this comment. Len Nelson said, Frank is a real treasure. We're lucky to have him and his talents in our community. I completely agree.
How nice. How kind. Well, I'm glad Appleton will have me. It's my favorite place I've lived ever.
So the Life of Reilly, just to close that conversation, for the 20th anniversary, we can expect to see some kind of re-release. Would we see that on Netflix again, or is it going to be?
Of course, it'll be it came off of streaming. We pulled it. It was still streaming, and we just pulled it. And all of a sudden, the price of the DVDs went into insane country. I don't know if anyone paid $250 for a DVD, but that's what the price rocketed to. A little economics lesson of scarcity, right? But
are you going to do any re-editing of the film?
No. There might be looking back 20 years, interviews, things like that.
So you guys might go do the circuit again, the promotional circuit for it.
Well, I did not mind that. That was fun. And the question I kept getting was, can you imitate him? All these Charles Nelson, and I'd do it, and I can. It's a little early now, but maybe 2 more coffees and I'll give you a full Charles Nelson Reilly. But up close, having dinner with him and hanging out with him. But
did he share any other stories with you that maybe aren't public knowledge?
Oh, there's so many, but they also involve profanity to a high level. Charles was always on the Game Show Network at the time, right? And I go, Charles, do they pay you? And he took me to his garage, and they paid him in television sets. His garage had 18 large screen analog, not even it wasn't HD world yet. Those big, bulky, big screen tube TVs, just stacked end to end. I said, that's it? You know, he's on the Game Show Network every day pulling numbers for them, and they gave him a TV set every year.
So at his home, did he have any memorabilia from his...
Everywhere.
That had to be fun to kind of look at it.
Sid and Marty Krofft from the shows he did, Lidsville, right, which he hated. And him and Johnny Carson, but most of it was Broadway because he was a big, big Broadway star. And he had a popular hit from Hello, Dolly. He was in the original cast. And no one today, I don't think, Hello, Dolly burst upon the scene like the Beatles. It had that kind of energy. Same year, too, 1964. Charles was, that was his last show, I think, yeah. He started with Off-Broadway, and then he went to Bye Bye Birdie, and then, hit. Hello, Dolly, Hollywood. And where were we?
We're talking about Charles Reilly being at his house, seeing the memorabilia.
His stuff, Broadway, and he was an opera director of note. In fact, a professor here at Lawrence in Appleton has won the Charles Nelson Reilly Director Prize 2 years. Isn't that funny?
Well, I'm looking forward to that 20-year release. We talked about Joey's song.
Is that Charles Nelson Reilly? Who's that guy? Something Brown Live.
I'll have to check it out later. I can't
Looks
really...
like Charles Nelson Reilly from here.
It might be Willie Nelson.
Oh, well, okay. He's wearing glasses. I got you.
I'll have to look at that later. But we've covered a lot of topics already. But one thing we need to talk about yet is Zebra Mussel. Like this great Fox Cities band that you're part of.
The greatest.
I've been lucky to see them twice in each show. The first one was so packed I had to leave like before it was over. But you guys played a couple weeks ago.
A lot of people said that.
Your brother was one of them. I know that.
I told him to back up because we're loud.
Well, you guys, like just energy. And when you were here last time, you talked about how Appleton was in danger of not rocking. So obviously you did something about it because...
We did something about it, ladies and gentlemen. We did.
Zebra Mussel, if you haven't seen them, I'll let you kind of describe.
We're an instrumental band. Psych surf band, but we're kind of like a psych surf prog band. No words. I'm against words. I told you that last time. To be in Zebra Mussel, you have to swear that you will never deal with words again. But words that I will allow in the band are like la la, na na, woohoo. Those are great words. I think woohoo means much more than anybody's long goddamn song packed with words. Just say woohoo. Who did that? Blur. Blur did woohoo.
Yep.
Then the rock, I think the Rocketeens in the 50s. Woohoo, woohoo, hoo. Yeah.
Michael from Joey's song says
they mean
Frank.
A lot to me. Who says what?
Michael from Joey's song says Frank, and then a bunch of exclamation points. So hi, Michael.
Michael.
So Zebra Mussel, like, and it makes perfect sense now. When the band was on here, you guys talked about the band. You said you guys are against words, against singing. Makes total sense. You guys are singing with your instruments, and you've got some effects, I think, on your steel guitar. Do you have effects on them? It sounds like singing. So now I understand why you don't need. And I even said to some of the people I was there with, I said, Frank is singing with that steel guitar.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, was that the goal of it? Okay.
I can't sing, but my guitar can. So, yeah.
Well, it was amazing. And the people were into it. And you definitely aren't going the pretty country, playing on the steel guitar that I think you don't like. But it was rocking.
It's not that I don't like it. It's just
Yeah, if you're playing it, you probably want to.
I've done this. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
Well, it was great. And you guys played a cover of Hocus Pocus, which was off the charts. It had everybody.
Well, and we made a casual video, and you can see it in the socials. It's not in its entirety, just a small clip of Bill Gracely on takeoff guitar, taking off, and it rocks.
So what's Zebra Mussel gonna do next? Like,
I don't know what Zebra Mussels. It's hard to get together. Everybody's in a million bands, right? Bill Gracely, the Isaac, and Logan Lamers have
a lot of bands.
The kids, as I call them, because they're in their 20s, and a lot of bands, and a very excellent band who shared the stage. And what's their name again? I think you and I both have like the morning fogginess going on. Well, I need 12 more coffees.
The present age.
Present age, yep. Who are they rock, and they rock hard, and there's a beat poetry element. It's like poetry and rock, and it's it used to be a thing, but I think in the early 70s, but it's really cool. Really cool. Present age is great.
Is there any talk of you guys recording an album at this point?
Of course. All the time. We talk about a lot. But
I know.
Our talk is we wanted to record in every studio in the Valley.
Like one song in each studio?
I don't know. I mean, that's a huge list, right? And there's Patrick and Jeff at Honeytone in Neenah, who are in love with sound more than anybody I've ever met in my life. I don't even know where their brains are at, because they're hearing things that I'm certainly not hearing them. Wonderful, wonderful studio. Record there if you can. Marc Golde, who's done enormous amount for the community, and I want to say this about him: he rocks on guitar. I saw him do I'd never heard him play guitar before. He was always out there adding keyboards to various, and he tore up this solo, killed me. It was great, just great. And Amos who I think is just being nice to us. I don't know if he really wants to record us.
Oh, Crutch of Memory.
I really don't know. So Crutch of Memory, which is fantastic. We're so lucky to have them here in town. It's huge. Tenement. Wow. It's just Tenement, Dusk. It just goes on and on and on. Visiting bands, visiting artists from different cities come there. And it's Appleton's amazing.
Well, I think if
Madison. They don't have that.
I think if people are watching and they haven't heard Zebra Mussel, there's not a whole lot you can go and proactively see right now, except that clip you mentioned on the socials. But really looking forward to it if you guys do an album, and if you have a chance to see you guys play live, which I don't know if you have any shows.
No,
you don't have any currently.
No. We're hard to nail down, but we are nail downable. But it's hard. Yeah.
So since we're talking about studios, let's kind of switch a little bit of gears, I guess, and talk a little bit about the Smart Studio story again, which
sure.
You were a part of.
Yeah.
Last time you were here, you talked about how when you were at driving down to Madison for the film work, Butch might need somebody and he'd call you up, and maybe somebody needed some pretty steel guitar or some accordion or something on a track, and you would just show up.
I did play accordion on
legendary Killdozer.
Killdozer.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Those were fun days. I was right in the middle of my animation career, and I made quite a few recordings. I never counted them. Wendy Schneider, the director, and I tried to count them because she logs and catalogs everything and does such a thorough job.
Yeah, Wendy's great.
But it was a fun time. It was a great time. It was, and when Smells Like Teen Spirit exploded, it became a crazy time where people thought they would. The magic juice was at the magic was at Smart Studios in Madison, and everybody wanted to record there. And the big thing we did, though, was a lot of remixes, which were popular then. They'd take your song, stretch it to 10, 18 minutes or whatever. And yeah, so I'm on quite a few of those, I think. I don't remember.
It's got to be a strange feeling to know that you're on a ton of songs and you have no idea which bands or what songs.
Well, of all of them, they're
I mean, you were on Jesse Paw, or Paw for the song Jesse.
which went all the way to number 86 on the UK Top 100.
And was on Sir Paul McCartney's Jukebox.
That's right. That's right.
Did the vibe change at Smart after Nirvana took
yeah.
off? I know the studio was remodeled and
It got
in the documentary, but in
the goofy fun was over. It was
Billy Corgan talks in the documentary about how he thought they messed the sound up by
that room was so loud. I mean, I don't know how eardrums survived. It was like that, and then I forgot who came in and engineered and created a mini LEDE room. That means live end, dead end. Right. And all of a sudden it sounded like an ordinary studio at that point. But, they still got great sounds. I mean, it's like, a real good guitar player, they sound the same on every instrument. Well, every time Butch or Doug, Mr. Colson or Duke were, messing around with the board, it sounded good no matter what. Yeah.
And the upstairs studio, was that added in that remodel, or was that there previously?
I can't remember. It was there. Well, I can't remember.
'Cause I think that's one thing I wasn't
They
sure
were
of.
doing a lot of, they were trying to get into, at one point, later, commercial work and things like that, and they did a lot of that up there, mixing sound for live concerts that were on MTV or whatever, that sort of thing. I think Garbage worked up there for some of it. Yeah, it's starting to get.
Yeah. I guess I didn't realize if that was their prior remodel. I don't remember it being referenced.
It didn't matter to me personally. I just show up and do my thing. I always sit next to the engineer. I never go out into the sound room.
Did your wife appreciate you taking on these extra things?
Oh, she didn't mind because she knew what I had to do it. I'm out there, and it was. I mean, how many directors show up on set can say they just played on the album, right? So, it all worked together very nicely. But I loved it because they were old friends. And that's always fun, working with old friends and always running into them every decade and then doing something and hanging out. I remember them. We all remember each other in our very poor days when we were struggling. And, that's all. We're just old friends from Madison.
And you guys will all get together again next month for Joey's song.
Joey's song, January 6th. It's going to be a big, big night. Big night.
If you can't make it, buy the live stream.
The excitement, I can feel it here. Yeah. Oh, yeah, buy the live stream. It's the greatest charity. And I was looking for one, actually, when it all happened for me. And that is mine from now on. I'll do whatever they want, anytime, anywhere, any place. Yeah.
What was your favorite collaboration last year at the Joey Song Show?
Take the Skinhead Bowling with Soul Asylum and Dave Pirner. I just loved that. Absolutely loved that.
And there's a looseness to those shows where...
Well, I opened for the band... I'm forgetting it. Take the Skinheads Bowling was...
I feel like it's one of those mornings.
This is a rough morning. Camper Van Beethoven. Well, I had opened for them in California during their heyday, which was the 80s. And I always loved that song. And when Camper Van Beethoven did it, he meant it. The song is, come on, people, let's get together. Take a Skinhead Bowling. It'll lighten them up, Let's all lighten up. Enough of this, He would plead when he was singing, the lead singer, he meant it. Take a Skinhead Bowling.
Yeah, that was definitely one of the many highlights from last year's event. Yeah. I know this year it's the theme is the know-it-all girlfriends versus the know-it-all boyfriends.
We're going to crush them.
Is it gonna?
Although
Is it
the
gonna
audience
be,
is going to love them way more than us. We know that. That's why we have to cry.
And I know you can't give away too much, but is it going to be, as far as you know, is it going to be the Know It All Girlfriends are going to play a set? Then
It's going to be a giant roulette wheel
oh,
with song genre.
well, this sounds cool.
And that thing will spin, digitally spin. And it'll, wherever it lands, who knows? It could land on punk. It could land on 80s, 90s, 2000, early 2000. It could land anywhere, and you have to perform.
That sounds really, really exciting.
Yeah.
So yeah, awesome. And Michael mentioned it was Camper Van Beethoven as well. So he's probably at home, like watching, like yelling out the answer. But yes, that's great. And
We need a Joey song, Fox Cities, because I know the Fox Cities would come out big at the PAC down here.
That's
I think
perfect.
it would be, what is that, 2,500 seats, whatever.
yeah, I thought, I think it
A
was like
summertime Joey song, same time as roughly Mile of Music, that would be huge.
I love that idea.
Yeah.
And the stuff Michael's doing with Joey song is I mean, it takes a lot of work, and it's
insane.
yeah.
If you should follow Michael with the camera, just follow Michael on the night of the show. If you want to see someone juggling, 5,000 balls in the air at the same time, it's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
And we act like children. Musicians are children. It's true.
we solved the problem of Appleton not rocking, or rather, you solved it with
Thank
Zebra Mussel. But what other bands from this area are worth checking out?
I'll tell you who I love. I'll tell you who I really love. Luke Crowe. Luke Crowe he's it. He's got it, the voice, everything. But he's at his best when he's backed up acoustically. So stand-up bass, drums, his brothers backing him up, just the Crowe brothers. There's a softness. There's not electrical instruments getting in the way, because electric instruments and loudness gets in the way of Luke Crowe. He's rocking, but he's rocking on a lower level of sound, a kind of I won't say he's like the Violent Femmes, but in that realm of sound, he is so great. His voice has nuance, tremendous nuance. Electrical instruments smash that nuance, break it to pieces. He becomes ordinary when he has this big rocking band. He becomes special when you hear his idiosyncrasies and the way he plays guitar. Self-taught, natural, just I hear nothing like it. One thing I hear way too much of in the Valley is people, YouTube learners. They can do the lead from that song. They can do the lead from that song. They can lead, I grew up in the Philippines, which is nothing but copy bands. I got news for you. There's a nation with 1 million guys who can do the Larry Carlton solo from something or other in the 70s better than you. So my advice always to guitar players is screw that shit. What can you do that's you? What haven't I heard before? What's weird? What's, reach inside yourself. Finger exercises are boring. No one cares. Can you touch people? And can you do it your own way, not somebody else's way who's gone down that road before you? Because, well, that puts you in another realm of entertainment. You're in the, high-paying corporate band, the party band, where you get what you pay. You want that. Some people like that. And, we need more of that. Luke Crowe is that. He's original in every possible way. Great voice. Luke Crowe.
So
The Wishbone Breakers. I'm sorry, his band's name is the Wishbone Breakers. The Wishbone Breakers. And by the way, for all your T-shirt needs and your rocking T-shirt needs, your hoodie, whatever, they can print anything at all. Go down and see Loretta at Amano Print House.
I almost didn't bring this up, Frank. Matty Day has a solo album coming out, and you worked on a music video for that.
Matty Day rocks. Matty Day rocks in a way no one rocks. Matty Day brings it. Matty Day. My video for Matty Day, it's going to be the greatest video ever.
Those are some big words.
I'm backing him up.
And you've heard what he's announced the release shows, one in Green Bay, one in Appleton.
Oh yes, the video will be ready for the release show.
Any hints on how it sounds, the music?
It's fantastic. It rocks. It's the old phrase, it leaps off the vinyl. It leaps off the vinyl, they used to say. Matty Day has that quality. And he's so personable, and he's an entertainer. He's wonderful. So I can't say enough about Matty Day.
This is
recorded by Sam and Alex, our fourth fabulous musical production center.
Marc Golde snuck one in right before before I was going to end the show. He wants me to ask you about Captain Crunch.
Yeah, I animated one of those.
Was that just frame by frame again?
That was hand colored, hand animated. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. But I wasn't the director on that. A lot of jobs, I was just, I'd get one character, and I'd get all his dialogue. So I got, the captain was my guy for one. And same with Butterfinger and Bart Simpson. I did Bart Simpson, but there were a billion of those, right? And there are a lot of these, what's that, the little doughboy, that's stop motion, Pillsbury. And that was a job you handed down. You kept getting handed down. The director of Nightmare Before Christmas, whose name I remember him.
Tim Burton.
No, he's not the director, just the writer. Anyway, he had them all. And then one of his guys, animators, had them all. Then they kept divvying them down. What?
I just took a picture of you, Frank.
Oh. Can I say something about Len Nelson?
Yeah, absolutely.
Len, fabulous accordion player, the real deal. I'm talking polka music, my favorite music, by the way. And Len, why aren't you out there? We need, polka is so dead. I was watching Polka, the show that goes before the Packer game the other day. One couple, I thought they were going to die right there on the dance floor. They must have been 98. That polka, young people, please, it's got to come back.
What are the chances you think it will come back?
0. But Len, great accordionist. He should be out there playing. He could lead a three-piece. He could play alone and tap his feet. He's that good. Yeah.
Wisconsinology is a site that you've been keeping up since roughly 2004, 2005?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what Wisconsinology is? .com.
It's my view of my adopted home. Well, I shouldn't say adopted because my ancestors have been here since 1820, but, and my whole family's here and everything, but I was not born here. But I'm absolutely fascinated by, number one, all of the firsts, all of the musical firsts. I do that show on 91.1 The Avenue where I talk about Wisconsin music history, and that's part of Wisconsinology. And a big part is where I moved to when we came from the Philippines, which is the Kashkinong Prairie, which is roughly east of Madison, southeast. And it's a rolling hills area, and it's also known as tobacco country. That's Wisconsin's tobacco country. And every member of my family, most of them, cousins, relatives, all were farmers, and they were in tobacco. Yeah.
So on the main page of Wisconsinology.com, you've got a painting that you actually created.
Yes. Yeah, if you go to Wisconsinology.com, a painting I did, which is in the, I believe it hangs on the wall of Corey Chisel, either him or Aid, and it is of the Goose Island Ramblers, who achieved notoriety and fame. They'd been a band for 40 years when I was a kid, and they were a trio. And you can see them right on that page. That's how they look. They're standing in a Norwegian cemetery in front of a huge tobacco field, and in the tobacco field is my mother and her brothers doing the hard labor of tobacco harvest. And behind is a train and tobacco sheds. And that is, that's one of my favorite paintings that I have done. I only paint Wisconsin subjects. That's it. But the Goose Island Ramblers were a huge influence on me and how I play, very much. George Gilbertson, the fiddle player in the painting, was a hero of mine when I was 13, 14. And I'd go to see him. My dad would take me to see the Goose Island Ramblers play. They were very popular in the Madison area. They became nationally known because they preserved a unique, original musical style known as Norwegian polkabilly. And what that is country music meets barn dance music meets Norwegian fiddle music, which was huge here. Wisconsin was once known as the kingdom of fiddlers, and they were all Norwegian. And Smokey George, he would play a showstopper, the Orange Blossom Special, right? A lot of people don't know that today, but back then, it was a huge song. It was a huge fiddle number. It's insane. And it would turn the bar upside down. Well, Smokey George could do the last full chorus. He played like this, of Orange Blossom Special, talking to the audience. One of the guys in the band would bring a pitcher of beer, and we were waiting for that moment. The song has a train beat, you know, so it's going, and we're waiting for the chorus. It's a 1-4-5 chorus at the end. Guy comes up with a pitcher, holds it above. We're cheering mad. Will he drink the whole pitcher of beer while playing the final chorus? And lo and behold, it would lower, and they'd kick into the final chorus, and place went ape shit, and I was just stunned. That's showmanship. Can you drink a pitcher of beer and do this incredible solo at the same time? You know, it was amazing. And he'd finish the last drink right on the beat of the final note. You know, bum 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 bum. So that's my musical. That rocked harder, and I've seen every band, rock band. I've seen them all. That rocked harder than anything I saw, and that's what I mean by rocking hard. You play polka hard, you're rocking hard. And the best polka bands back then were the slightly younger ones, because you could tell the older ones, their beat would slow down over the years. You know, instead of going, and that's not really a polka beat. That's just a two-step. But by the time they were in their 50s, it was, you know, and you know, what the hell's wrong with you people, you know? But that is the Goose Island Ramblers. That's Smokey George Gilbertson and Bruce Ballerud, who played accordion and was absolutely brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. You can see them on YouTube, I believe. But they were my main inspiration as a kid.
So, like, if you had to gauge the best, like, handful of rock bands that you saw back in the day, can you name some of the names of some of the larger bands that you saw? Like, I mean, we're talking
when I was in high school, Cheap Trick was my favorite band, period. Absolutely, period. I didn't last long in high school. I left. And that was the time Cheap Trick was building up. You could see them every single night of the week anywhere. You know, you drive to Dodgeville, go see them. You drive to Beloit, go see them. You drive to Milwaukee, go, you know, some bowling alley, right? And they were rocking, and they were so fresh and new because they played 2-minute songs. And we were so, I'm from the tail end of the baby boomer generation. I don't relate to what they relate to. You know, they had the Vietnam War, late 60s, blah, 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 which was an interesting time. But I didn't come of age till the late 70s. And Cheap Trick was our band because they played short songs. And the previous baby boomers, they listened to, you know, jams where things would go 20 minutes and they'd sit on the floor and just look up and go like that. Well, we wanted to dance. Disco was big then. I have nothing against disco. I love it because I love bands you can dance to. To me, that's the biggest thing. Are you sharing your music? You know, they say, well, man, we're sharing our music cerebrally. Ah, shut up. If they're not dancing, you're not playing. It's that simple. And Cheap Trick, oh my God, they were so good. And we knew they were going to be huge. I loved them. I loved the Jay Giles Band in the mid-'70s because they rocked so hard, and they delivered and delivered and delivered and wouldn't stop delivering. This is the pre-hit Jay Giles Band. This is they were fantastic before the 80s. I stumbled upon Cream only because my older brother took me to some outdoor festival in Beloit. And, what's that guy? He's Eric Clapton. He's playing with his back to the audience. I thought, what's his problem? What's his goddamn problem? Name them. I've seen them. I saw ELO, where their spaceship came down on the stage. All those Coliseum shows. And by the way, people mythologize Coliseum shows. I went to them because I knew a guy at the Dane County Coliseum, and he'd give me free tickets. They were horrible. They sounded horrible. And here's what they were. You're in the audience. You're like this. And some girl or guy next to you is throwing up violently, And jerk over here is yelling at the guitar playing, is not being as good as Ted Nugent. Rick Nielsen was playing cheap. I saw their first ever Coliseum show. And this guy's going, he ain't no Ted Nugent. There was anger in the crowd. One good Coliseum show was Bruce Springsteen early on. He brought a warmth and a happiness and a good vibe. But most of those Coliseum shows were shit, absolute shit, should not be mythologized. That era was horrible. It didn't have the energy of 60s music, fast forward. It was sludgy. So those older bands that I saw, not Cheap Trick, they were like watching, sludge go down a river. It was just boring. And then Prague. Oh, give me a goddamn break.
We're talking like Rush and
shit. I know you're a high school drum enthusiast, and you love every little beat he has, and the gong behind him and all that shit. And Spinal Tap finally turned it into a joke, and it was a joke. And now it's mythologized. That's because you weren't there. You're romanticizing it. There's nothing romantic about it. It was awful. But there were some bands that brought great vibes and thank God, cut their songs off at 3 minutes.
So that's a good thing to going to vinyl then. We've talked about vinyl before, but vinyl is it's been back, but people romanticize about vinyl, but how many people that buy it listen to it? It's probably
Very small.
Yeah, but
Amos told me something very interesting. Amos from Crutch of Memory, that, his record label, which is, a known quantity, they'll only press 300. I know one vinyl distributor, and he says we're basically pressing Fleetwood Mac albums. Over 50% are those records from that era. People want them again new, or they give them to their kids.
So they're mostly printing old releases for reissue?
Yeah. New records. Unless you're, like, again, the bands in this tier. But, I don't know what they're... I guess it's going great, the vinyl business, but it peaked last year and took a turn down. I don't know. I don't have any physical devices. I listen to Spotify.
Well, it's easy. I know it's not like the cool thing to say that's how you do it, but it is so easy now.
It's just easy. Yeah.
Well, I tried pulling out an old record. It was Ozzy Osbourne, Blizzard of Oz. I've had it for a while. I put it on the other day, and I thought, this is terrible, but I couldn't forward through anything because I'm listening to a record. So I listened to side A, flipped it around, figured I'll probably never listen to this record again. So it's like,
no, you won't.
If I was listening to Spotify, I would have just turned on something else.
Yeah.
But that's interesting. So Wisconsinology, great site to go find out history about Wisconsin. You did a mythical creatures poster.
Monsters, Myths, Monsters, and Legends of Wisconsin. It's a poster, and it is available on Etsy.
So check that out.
Check that out.
It's a cool poster.
Yeah.
But and also the Avenue you mentioned, you've got a feature on the Ave. And those episodes are also available on the website.
And I'm starting up fresh episodes, brand new episodes on the Avenue 4 times a week in January.
How do you research what you're going to feature on those episodes?
I'm a lifelong library reader. I'll read anything. And for some reason, I don't know what it is, Wisconsin just attracts my attention. Often, I can pick up any book and go and open it to a page, and it'll say Wisconsin on there, even if it's not about Wisconsin at all. It's probably the only time it's mentioned. I don't know why. But this state has fascinated me forever, and I think it's unique and different. It's not, I try to tell people on the coasts, we aren't Minnesota. We're night and day different from Minnesota. You might never see us on that streaming show Fargo at all because we have nothing to do with that. That is, to me, Minnesota and the Dakotas, I mean, they're different. They're starkly different. Iowa, starkly different. Northern Illinois, I'll take that because that has nothing to do with Southern Illinois, Chicago, and I worked there. I love Chicago, and I used to be part of Wisconsin. And we are just different. Some Nashville people always, I tell this story all the time. We have a rich music history down here, Frank. You like our rich music history? Yeah, I especially like the part where all 3 of your state songs were written by a Wisconsinite. That's my favorite part about Tennessee state history. They were.
And you've lived out on the West Coast. So
yeah. They think we live in Laura Ingalls Wilderland, the Pines, a big little house in the big pines. They think I have a cornfield in one, off to one side and a state forest off on the other side. Yeah.
Who do you like to see play at Lambeau Field? They once in a while have like one big concert a year. If that
the know-it-all boyfriends.
Yes.
Absolutely. Playing their. Here's the weird thing. The know-it-all boyfriends do covers, and often they do it replacement style, if you know what I mean. But each individual, those guys up front, they have hit songs. They have their own songs. They were part of something huge, all of them, every one of them. And if they actually did their own songs, it would be amazing. And they would have to if we played Mile of Music. We would have to. Because you can't do covers there.
Supergroup.
Yeah. No, they live in denial.